So this weekend I went to SPX for the first time, and I had a few friends ask me, "Hey, how'd it go? What'd you think?" So I figured that I could just do a short video and just kind of talk about it because it was a great experience. I'll get more into it in a moment. It kind of gave me some thoughts on comics in general. First, I want to say that it was a great experience. It's the first non-mainstream con that I've ever been to, and when you strip away the celebrity guests, the photo ops, the cosplay competitions, the video games, the Funko Pops, all that stuff, what you have left is the comics, and that's what SPX is. I'm a bit of a planner, and I had kind of been a little unhappy with how, in my mind, how late some of the things were finalized before SPX. But I will say that it was enough time to plan and coordinate. And I have to give a big tip of the hat to Warren Bernard and his entire team for putting together a really good show. Well run, well organized, a really inclusive atmosphere. It was really nice. And the attendees range from old to young, very racially diverse, very diverse as far as gender goes. A lot of people with disabilities that were there. It was just really inclusive. And I think it has to be probably held in some area like Bethesda or somewhere in the Northeast where you can have an inclusive type of con. Like SPX wouldn't work, and no offense to anybody, Norman, Oklahoma, or Lincoln, Nebraska. I think that's what makes it a lot of fun. A lot of people there. Some people dressed up in some cosplay. Some people just went regular. You had families with kids. It was a really interesting, diverse crowd, and it's kind of reflective of the area where you go into Starbucks and you'll see African Americans and Indians and Iranians, Persians, Hispanics, white people, all people just hanging out. And SPX was a lot like that. I was happy to see a lot of young people there too. I think we're kind of in a place where a lot of us old farts are kind of like turning over, and you have a lot of young people coming in, not only as readers, but as cartoonists, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But I thought it was really great turnout, good vibe, lots of people there. And it was, it kind of made me feel good about the future, at least when it comes to independent comics. So let me go through my notes. One, I bought too many comics. I bought more than I expected, and I had a list, I had plans. There were a couple of books that I planned on getting, but I didn't get, and there were some books that I didn't even know existed, and they ended up getting. And I'm going to do a separate video about the books that I got, or else it's just be too long. I got to get books signed by a lot of great creators. Jordan Crane was there. Tim Lane, who's phenomenal, was there. I got to meet Desmond Reed, who I've been talking to for 4 years online. A really great guy. He's engaged. His fiance was there doing sales, and she's a very lovely woman. JT Yost was there. Jamie Veda was there. Just so many different people. I kept bumping into Ryan Holmberg, which was kind of funny. He's a very cool dude. I like him a lot. And it was just kind of a cool experience. One thing that I was surprised was that the first thing I did, well, the second thing I did, the first thing I did was I got a copy of The Confessional by Paige Henders. Paige was nice enough to sit with me to do an interview that's going to be published in the next issue of Canon. And I loved her book, so I just reached out to her, and she was very receptive. Really nice person. After that, I went to Jesse Lonergan's table to get him to sign my copy of Drone. Cool guy, but it was funny. He actually remembered me from Instagram. And, for a minute I was like, oh, really? Because I don't think anybody's ever remembered me from anything. But he did, and but I mean, I love this book, so it wasn't anything negative that I would have said. That happened a couple of times. Ryan Holmberg also somehow looked at me and said, "You're Ray," And it was just kind of like surprising. Um, I'm just a guy. A couple other people did, which was nice. I guess that somebody's watching the channel, and because of the way it's set up, it was fun. You could be a little bit more intimate. Like when I was getting my book signed by Jordan Crane. Jordan Crane does these beautiful little drawings, very detailed and very painstaking and deliberate. And you could just talk to him while he was doing it. Had a lot of great conversations with a lot of different creators, and it was just really that was cool. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm not gonna fanboy, but I still think it's super cool to be able to meet some of these creators whose work you really love and just talk about comics and talk about anything. I thought that was a lot of fun, and that's something that you really don't get at the mainstream cons unless you meet somebody at the bar and they're actually willing to talk to you because maybe they're just tired from being at a con all day with thousands of people. I also got to meet a couple of friends, good friends of online, Matthew Mackman, who's 3T, the publisher of the 3T anthology, somebody who I think is really knowledgeable about comics. We had breakfast that morning, nice enough to pick me up from the hotel. I was nearby, but it was still really nice of him to pick me up. We talked about comics and music, just a lot of other things. Just a really interesting guy, someone whose opinion I respect a lot. Then later on, I met John Taylor Jr. He went along with his twin brother Josh, and it was really cool to see John. John and I have traded a lot of books. Like I said, hey, I got some books I'm going to give you. And he's like, okay. And then he ends up giving me a ton of books. And then I give him a books and then he gives me books. And just a really cool guy, an aspiring cartoonist. Just good, solid people. So that was cool to finally meet someone in person. The same thing with Desmond Reed, as I mentioned. Finally, good to meet them in person. It was just that was a really cool experience, and they were all cool guys. Because sometimes you meet people online, when you meet them in person, it's not the same experience. But they're all great people. And when I was talking to Desmond on Sunday, and Desmond, again, I'm sorry I didn't think about taking a photo with you. I should have, getting old. Um, but he was telling me that he's been there since after the pandemic, and he says that last year there were less people that he recognized, and then this year there were even fewer people that he recognized. And I have been thinking for a while that we're kind of in a, at least with the independent comic space, we're sort of like in this period of changing of the guard, where the guys who were the greats, who are great, like Klaus, the Hernandez brothers, Adrian Tomina, Chris Ware, Linda Barry. Those people are at a point in their careers where they're just not going to do the grind. They're not going to do the circuit. They don't have to. They don't want to, or both. And it just seems that what you have now is a new crop of cartoonists, younger, a lot more women, a lot more diverse as far as gender, a lot more representation from the LGBTQ community. I apologize. It's just a younger, different crowd than it was probably 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, look at people who win Ignatz Awards. I mean, Lila E. won one. That's kind of the future comics. You have people like M.S. Harkness, Cash Browns, just Alice Graham. You have all these women in comics. You have people who are different genders. And this cis straight white male that's kind of dominated independent comics, I think there's less dominance. And in between those two, like guards, the new guard and the old guard, I think you have a couple of guys like Noah Van Sciver, who is not part of that old guard, like with Chris Ware and all that, but he's got younger people too, and he's still continuing that great high level of comics. I think I always consider him, and there's probably other people I'm just not coming to mind, but I always consider him like a bridge between those two guards. And I say that with all reverence because I love Noah Van Sciver. I wish he was there. He wasn't there because he's married and he has kids. So, good for him to be with his family. That's probably the one guy that I will probably never meet that I would really want to meet in person. But who knows? But I will say that it made me think about the future and about not only are the readers changing, but the creators are changing and they're more reflective of the readers than I guess as always. And it just made me think about that for a bit as far as the future. But the future felt pretty good. A lot of people were there, a lot of people buying books. A lot of cool stuff that was there got sold out. It was really, it was really. I felt better about independent comics afterwards. And I didn't feel bad about them before, but I felt really good about them when I left. Now, let me give you some suggestions. Some people are planners, some people are not planners. I'm a planner. Make sure that you bring something that can carry the books that you have, because I promise you, you will bring back more books than you planned on. On Sunday, Fantagraphics had a 25% off sale. But I got all my books signed on Saturday, and I bought any books for the most part on Saturday. So in the future, you may want to hold off on buying books if there's a large quantity of them until Sunday. Maybe somebody, I think Drawn and Quarterly has some other kind of discount thing, but I know Fantagraphics definitely had 25% off. And I would have bought the books that I got signed on Sunday, if I would have known that. The North Marriott Conference Room area is a really nice area. Um, it's not like a mainstream con where you're like a sardine. So that's a great place. Wear comfortable shoes, wear comfortable clothes. And when you meet these cartoonists, don't be like nervous or apprehensive to tell them how much you love their work. If you've read the work, I mean, I didn't gush, but like when I passed the top shelf table, John Allen was there. John Allen goes by Ohio's for Sale. I read his newest book, The Well, and I didn't know he was going to be there. I would have brought it for him to sign it. But I saw him there and I said, hey, listen, I bought your book. I read it. I thought it was really wonderful. I told him a couple of things I really liked about it. And I wish I would have brought from the sign. But I think that it's okay to tell these guys, hey, I love your work, or I really like this. And maybe if you've read it, maybe if you have like a reference, a scene or a book or whatever. I mean, I said that to every creator I met, and I didn't get an eye roll. I didn't. And if they wanted the eye roll, they hit it very well. A couple of them who were pretty established told me they were appreciative of the fact that I really liked their work, which I thought was really cool. I think there's a way of saying it, but then people get excited and they say, "Oh my God, so and so's here." That's cool too. I think, as Desmond Reed said, comics and cartooning is a solitary work. It's lonely, maybe is a good word. So sometimes you don't get that feedback. You don't know. You see it in social media, but there's something about interpersonal connection, talking to people, the way you say things, using tonal language, the look in your eyes, the way you project your body language, all those things. I think you can't replace that on social media. And I think having somebody come up and buy your book, or having you sign their book and say, I really love this book, it was so good. I think, I think maybe some guys that have heard it so much get tired of it, but I think most cartoonists like the feedback and they like knowing that the work they're doing is appreciated. That's some advice I would say I would give. What else? That's about it. I would next, if I go again, which I'm interested in doing. I think I'll probably tone down on the purchasing, but there's also a lot of stuff that I've heard about that I've never seen locally. So it was an opportunity for me to try it and kind of be open minded. I found, and it was funny because I kept bumping into Matthew Mackman, and he's got a tremendous eye for talent. So if he was at a table, I would be like, "Oh, I'm going to be at this table. Let me see what he's doing," because he's got such a great eye. I figured if he's looking at something, it's probably pretty interesting, and it happened a couple of times. Or him and I went to the same table to see the same guy independently of each other, and we're like, "Oh, you're here," that kind of deal. I think like Saturday, Sunday for me was a lot of just browsing, looking around, or saying, "Oh, hey, let me get this," or "Hey, this is kind of interesting." Um, I will tell you that if you bump into Ryan Holmberg, he starts talking about books, you will end up buying books you didn't plan on buying. And I mean, I know those books are awesome, but it's just he didn't hard sell me, but the way he was just talking about them just got me intrigued. Um, but they're all books that I'm happy to have, so it's not like he made me buy anything that I didn't care for. And that's really it. I can't compare it to any other independent con. I've been told that if you've been to one large independent con like that, that is other ones are pretty much the same, except maybe they have, obviously you're gonna have different creators and it's gonna have a different vibe because it's a different part of the country or another country. But it was a lot of fun. If you ever had the opportunity to go, or maybe CXC or Short Run in Seattle, which is one I'm interested in, or if you're in Canada, TCAF, um, I would recommend that you go. I just think it's a really cool experience if you haven't been to one, just to kind of go and just go to a non-mainstream con, and you can just focus on the comics and talk to creators, and that's it. If you have any questions, which probably don't, but if you do, you can always ask. And I think that interpersonal connection is something that is probably the thing that I liked most. Not just getting books, but actually meeting the people that created the work. And that's it. Thanks.